DVDs, extra learning, MP3s, where you're growing your mind. Teacher and I put at least 5% of that, but just 2% for purposes, for extra learning and reading. And generally, the more expensive a material, the more value it is. In 1980, I bought 4 books. Each book cost me $500 a book. That worked out to be 10 years of my earnings. But I had money that I'd saved. I pulled that money and I bought these 4 books. It was an option, Bishop, to buy a car, a second-hand car, or to buy these 4 books. Now, I was working at the time. I really needed a car. But there was something inside of me that said, Tudor, if you buy these books, what's in these books will cause you to drive for the rest of your life. And if you buy this car, you'll be walking for the rest of your life. So I paid $2,000 for 4 books. And they've changed my life completely. From that point in 1980, I was on the road to becoming successful and wealthy. You need a financial plan. 3%, 2% goes towards, 3% must go towards your children's college. Especially when you start working, you're not married, you don't have kids, that's the time to put money towards children's higher learning. It becomes a part of your culture. So in actual fact, sisters and brothers, before you have paid your rent, before you've paid utilities, before you paid for food, before you paid for clothing, before you paid for anything, 35% of your money is already allocated. All you have is 65% of your money left. And we have proved that you can become wealthy on 65%. $65. Say, have a financial plan. Say, have a financial plan. Say it again. Say it one more time. You must have a financial plan. You must have a financial plan. Bishop, we have Christians, believers that are praying for the wealth of the wicked. Why? Why? I mean, what you going to do with it? What's the plan? I mean, if you literally get $10 million today, what are you going to do with it? What's the plan? House, car, clothes. There's no plan. There's no plan. 1993, I'm flying from Amsterdam to Johannesburg. And that's before I started flying business class or first class. I used to fly coach, so I was upgraded. And I was so happy for the upgrade. I was sitting in seat number 3A. And so I heard the door closing and somebody stumbling on, and that person came sit next to me in seat 3B. That person was Sir Richard Branson. Richard Branson, the owner of Virgin Airlines. And that entire world, he came sit right next to me. I got such a shock. I mean, my heart dislodged. It left my chest cavity and sat in my mouth. That's why I couldn't speak, because my heart dislodged my tongue. I was like, oh. He shook my head. He said, "Hi, I'm Richard." I can't remember what I said. I think I might have said, I'm Susie or Marion or... And he shook my hand, and we exchanged some conversation. I said, "My name is Tudor." Oh, that's a great British name. What do you do? What do you do? And so I was scrambling for words, you know. A preacher, teacher, philosopher, bookmaker. What are you? What are you? And even though I was coming from a conference and preaching a conference, I was struggling. I'm just being transparent. I was struggling with who I was. Because even though I was a preacher, I wasn't sure if I was effective. Because what was I going to say to this man who at that time his personal wealth was $12.5 billion, self-made? And so they were pushing back, and he was doing some stuff, and then when we got to cruising altitude, they brought his mail, Bishop. And his mail came in 3 bags that size. They were serving drinks and food. He was going through his mail. Went through his mail. Took him an hour. And then all of that was thrown. He kept a handful like this and put them in his inner pocket. And he said to me, all of that, that's what I was looking for right here. Put it in his pocket. And then he spoke to me for 10 minutes. He said, I got to turn around and sleep. I'm going to the inauguration of President Mandela. He said, and he spoke to me for 10 minutes. And he gave me some information in 10 minutes. And then he gave me a phone number and said, if you need anything, Tudor, this is my number, phone me. I couldn't sleep. Because what am I, if I'm ever going to use that phone number, I had better have a plan. I'll phone the brother and say, hey, Rich, hook me up with a pizza, bro. And I'll be extremely honest with you. I'll be extremely honest with you. That encounter was 19 years ago. And just 2 years ago, I came up with a plan that is worthy to present to Richard Branson. With budgets, with staffing, with competence, with direction, and with a future. It took me that long to figure some things out. You need a plan, and you need to work on that plan. So Cheech and I started working on our plan in 1982. In 1982. That plan has included the success of our kids going through college. That plan has succeeded, and we adopt the same principles in our church. Our church, for our church to run, is about $3.5–4 million American dollars a year. It's moderate. For Africa, it's pretty good. It's moderate. I wish it was more. And we have 75 employees. But if we never took an offering for 1 year, for a solid year, we could pay for everything. Because with our financial plan as a church, with everything we do to keep every light on, every missions program going, all of our travel and all of that, our financial reserve in cash is over a year deep. We're over a year deep. It's a plan. It's a plan. Tell somebody you need a financial plan. Please say that. I hope I'm not sounding like I'm condescending, like I'm some smart donkey from somewhere. Let's now talk about leadership. There are 4 things about leadership that makes you a leader. The first one is the ability to see. What do you see? Because everybody's looking. What do you see? And so I was adamant that I hadn't been in this building. And because Bishop was trying to tell me in a very nice way that I'd not been here for a long time. But I was in this building for one service. Sister Posey was standing over there playing the horn. I remember that now. So I have been in that building. So, but since then, Bishop. Yes. But even when I came in last night, I was counting, basically looking at the chairs and seeing the choir and looking at the microphones and why, looking at the position of the cameras, the color scheme. I was looking at everything because I was making notes to take back to where we are. I do that with every building. Watching the way offerings are received, looking for the good, the bad, the ugly in terms of a system, not people. Looking for how people, you can usually tell a people by the expression on their face, whether they're being hammered, beaten to the ground, motivated, So I'm kind of like looking. I just say this publicly. I'm just concerned that Bishop Posey was praying for everybody. We got to preserve him. When I was in Korea, they don't even allow people to touch Dr. Cho's clothes because they want him to live 100 years old. They said even if you touch a person's clothes, you're taking life out of them. So it just depends how long you guys want your bishop here. So some of you have to up your game, put him on a chair, let him put his hands up, and you all pray for the people. Hallelujah, Bishop. I'm not even looking at you. Amen. I'm not even looking at you. I'm not even looking at you. Because you can't touch everybody. And you got people who are undisciplined who will come for prayer every week. And if I see them coming in the prayer line for the same thing, I'm not praying for them. That's just me. I haven't had espresso this morning. I'm sorry. So what do you see? Number 2, leaders hear. What do you hear? What do you hear? I was fascinated. I was on a train in England, and there was a family traveling together. And the car we were traveling in, you know, was a little noisy and rowdy. People were going to watch a football game, and there was a mother there, 2 kids with her husband, and the husband was sitting in the corner with the baby. And the kids were carrying on. The mother was sleeping, and that baby just went, ah, and the mother was up instantly. Because amidst all of that noise and all that rambunctiousness and carrying on is what you hear. Mom heard that baby and responded to that baby immediately. What do you hear? In this message, what do you hear? In Columbus, what do you hear? In the United States, what do you hear? In the world, what are you hearing? How is your ear tuned? What are you akin to? Successful leaders hear the right sound. When you hear the rustling of the mulberry trees, when the wind is in the leaves, when you hear that, that's the time to go to battle. So leaders hear differently. And number 3, what stirs you the most? What makes you angry as a leader? For me, Bishop, what makes me angry as a leader is poverty. Poverty makes me angry. When I see it, I get angry. I was in Malawi some years ago, and the church we were in the building we were in was half the size of this hall, and they packed in 2,000 people. I mean, that's African style. It's like people on top of people. And they brought the offering baskets for offering, and they were small little things the size of my hand. They were made of, you know, somebody had taken their time to weave a little basket. It was quite cute. And they brought that silly little thing there for an offering for 2,000 people. I said, you people are crazy. I took that thing and stomped on it. I looked like I was so rude and unmannerly, and that's not my character. And in demonstration, I tore that thing up and I said, you're not going to prosper with this. Because the life expectancy of women in that part of the world, 37 years old. Females becoming mothers between 12 and 13, grandmothers by the time they're 28. By the time they're 37, there's nothing to live for. And it's because of poverty. The same females walk several kilometers to pick up sticks, carry water, cooking food on wood stoves. Just horrible, horrible, horrible life. Sexually transmitted infections. The killer one is AIDS. And it's all because of poverty. Education is free for women in Malawi, but hardly any of them go to school because poverty is the #1 killer. Not AIDS, not malaria, not a lack of immunization. It's poverty. So poverty makes me angry. That's why we have constructs in our ministry to alleviate poverty. I was hoping Dr. Tendai would be here. He is working with a multi-million-dollar structure for empowering women in small business. You know why there's crime in our cities? It's poverty. It's poverty. You know why you got Flavor with all of that stuff in his mouth on TV? Because it's poverty. There's a group of people that are in poverty that empower that rubbish. All of the stuff you see on TV, this stuff, bootylicious, that's poverty. Makes me angry. Did you see all the little storefront churches with all the wannabe preachers, $2 preachers? That's poverty. It's poverty. They won't submit to a system, so they want to go start their own church to milk a handful of people who are stupid enough to go there. It's poverty. It's poverty. And it makes me angry. What stirs you? What stirs you? Number 4, every leader has a shift mechanism. A shift mechanism. A day when you say, like Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind, I'll never, never, ever go hungry again a day in my life. Where did the shift come for you? Where did the shift come from? When did you get sick and tired? Every leader has a shift moment. A shift moment. Mine came just after Cheech and I got married. Had no motor vehicle. I had to borrow a bicycle. I'm riding my bicycle, going to see the bank manager. I needed some money to help us, and he said to me, don't be late, Tudor, because I used to work in that bank. And there was a borrowed bike, a lady's bike. I fell off the bike, the chain broke, tore up my best suit, crease on my hands, and my cousin, who had just bought a new car, saw me on the floor, came and laughed at me, and I stood there crying. I stood there crying, a grown man boo-hooing. And I made a vow that day. This will never happen to me ever again. And that day I made up my mind, I will be rich. Every leader has a shift moment. Ask Moses. Ask Moses. He had a shift moment. Joshua had a shift moment. Every leader has a shift moment where it changes the trajectory of your life. And number 5. Every leader develops a pattern for the way things are done. So if I want to know Bishop Posey, I just got to come into his world. Just come into his world. Observe the secretaries. Observe the way the church is. What you see here is at his house. What you see on his desk is at his house. You look at a person's car, I can tell you what's at their house. Because everything you are is an extension in things you do. You open the trunk of my car, you won't find a speck of paper. Not a speck. Sherry, I'm a naturally untidy person. I'm naturally untidy. If I open my suitcase, Sister Posey, stuff just falls out everywhere without my permission. I'm just naturally untidy. I don't know why. Chichi is naturally tidy. She's a better person than me in more ways than one. And so, for me, I spend time, and it doesn't take long, son. I spend time with my wardrobe. My wardrobe is color-coded. I learned that from Chichi. Blue shirts here, purple shirts here, da-da-da-da-da. My shoes are placed in certain order. I am a runner, and I have a ridiculous number of running shoes. I have 35, 36 pairs of running shoes. And they are all different versions of orange for some reason. But the thing is, I have to do it because I'm naturally untidy. I'm naturally disorderly. And so I've had to change my pattern. Every leader has a pattern. Look at the Old Testament. It's the altar, the brazen altar, the laver, candlesticks, table of showbread. It's a pattern. And every time they go to the next place, they don't change the order. Think, man, I think we just put the Ark of the Covenant right here by the door. It save us having to walk all that distance. We just put it by the door. No, every leader has a pattern. You don't have to, if you're a musician, you can be sitting with your eyes closed and you can hear a song come on and you can tell, oh, that's Stevie Wonder. Because there's a certain pattern he uses. You can tell Earth, Wind and Fire music. Or let's get spiritual. You can hear a Donald Lawrence song. Because there's a certain pattern. Every leader has a pattern. I was watching the Leonardo da Vinci files the other day of what he was drawing in 1508, the human anatomy. And it's all within a pattern. And you can identify a Van Gogh painting, a Picasso painting, a Rembrandt. You can tell a Tchaikovsky piece. If you listen to Mendelssohn or Handel's Messiah, it's all a pattern. Strauss, his music. It's not like Mozart. It's all waltz, 3/4 tempo music, because every great leader has a pattern. That's true of leaders in Africa. They all have a pattern. In our country, they don't want to leave. They just stay there forever. So what's your pattern? You have to develop that. Wow. Here are the 4 foundations of a leader. 4 foundations of a leader. And then I'll close with the finance side. The first foundation of a leader is belief. Beliefs. What do you believe? What are your core beliefs? What do you really believe? I'll just throw a few things out. What do you believe about, if you're a man, about women? That determines the way your world is run. What do you believe about money? What do you believe about race? What do you believe? Non-belief is a belief. You believe in nothing. What are your beliefs? What are your biblical beliefs? Number 2. Wisdom. What is your definition of wisdom? What have you learned in life? And what have you imparted from what you've learned? Everybody has a level of wisdom. Jesus grew from a child in wisdom. The Bible says that the babes will confound the older folks because they are levels of wisdom. Number 3. The values of a leader, we touched on that. And passion. The passions of a leader. When you work with somebody that comes into the house, like the prodigal son, that comes into a system of privilege, and they never understand the value of a hard-earned dollar, it's very hard to explain to your son what it took for you to get here. You see it in the neighborhoods, toys in bicycle on the lawn, toys thrown everywhere. You walk into a house, the PlayStation is just thrown there, because the kids don't realize what it took to get there, because there's a diminishing of value systems. And so all of life, please listen to me, all of life is built on a reward system. Everything is a reward system. If you are faithful with a little, you get much. Faithful with another man's, you get your own. And so in the 21st century, the reward system is never really applied. And so people then get rewarded by going to jail, because they get paid for the wages of sin. It means you earned it, you're getting paid, is death. And so in our system, we have to set up a value system where there is a reward system. On the top of the reward system in terms of your success as a person, the highest seed a person can sow is honor. There's no greater seed than the seed of honor. No greater seed. There is no greater seed than honor. And we live in a society that shows the most dishonor. I get a little, personally, a little horrified, even in a country where you enjoy your freedoms, freedom of speech and expression and all that. But President Barack Obama right now, the networks are tearing him to shreds. And yes, maybe there are a few things that he should be doing, whatever those are. I can't say because I don't spend 10 seconds in his life, But in some news outlets, they definitely cross the line because they move away from issues and start insulting. And that's a lack of honor. It's a total lack of honor. We live in a society where there's no honor. So if you're going to be successful and receive rewards, honor must be in there. All failure can be traced to dishonor. All success is because you honored something, someone. If I dishonor the law of gravity, I'm going to break my neck. So the greatest way to prosper is through honor. Number 2, all success is determined by the seeds sown. What have you sown? What you sow, you reap. So what have you sown? Here's a couple of recommendations. Here's a couple of recommendations. In our world, I'm talking about Africa now, there are individuals that are probably more gifted, more anointed than I am. And of course, I understand the grace component, that God has put a grace on my life. But there's one thing that I can attribute our rise in ministry to, and that's sowing, giving, sowing and reaping, sowing. You can't give what you don't have, at least initially. You have to, such as I have, give I thee. Such as I have, give I thee. So it's difficult to give something when you don't have it, but you can actually create things to have that you may not have. For example, you can give honor where honor is due. You can give honor. In one of his testimonies, Jimmy Swaggart said the challenge that he had after he fell, God spoke to him and said, because he as a leader dishonored a woman in his church, an old lady, that every single Sunday without fail she would breeze by his office with $2 for a cup of coffee. And he got to the stage that when he saw her coming, he got his armor bearers and stuff, said, just get rid of her. And God said, you honored somebody that I told to give you $2 for your coffee, and you dishonored her. So it works both ways. So the first thing you sow is honor. And respect and all that comes in that category. The second thing you sow is time. Everybody has time. You got November conference coming up. You got to serve in some way. Serve somewhere. I don't want to come to Ohio in January and February. It's too cold. And November has its moments. But the thing is that the same people keep on serving. Give them a break. Give your time. Serve in some way. Make a pie. Well, some of you need to go buy one. Just buy one. Sow your time. Tell someone, sow your time. This comes long before you ever sow money. Sow your time. Sow your time. Sow honor. Sow your time. Sow your time. Go give some of those kids that are working in the children's ministry a break. Say, look, I'll come work here today. You know, go and enjoy the service. I'll watch the children in children's ministry. Sow your time. Sow your time. Sow your time in the parking lot.